good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Season 2 of Midday with Trey. I'm your host, Trey. Let's get right into the show. Let's get right into it. Today's guest is a lecturer of marketing in the Wall College of Business. Today we have Matthew Gilbert.
Thank you for having me here. This is great.
I'm glad to have you on. So can you start by just giving the audience just like a little glimpse into who you are?
Sure. Well, this is my third year here at Coastal. So I teach marketing courses like the CBAD 350 marketing, Marketing 351, consumer behavior, Marketing 455, which is personal selling and sales management. And then this semester, I've had an opportunity to teach Marketing 452, which is social media marketing. So prior to coming here, I actually lived and taught at a university in Dubai for 6 years. So that was my story prior to here, so perhaps we can get into that.
Yes.
But basically, I've been teaching since 2007 in all kind of various incarnations, online, on campus, hybrid, and have always been passionate about learning and taking what you learn from something and doing something with it. And I had spent about 12 or 15 years in the marketing industry, primarily marketing communications, and enjoy it and still enjoy that part of it. It's kind of an anchor for me.
Right.
But I wanted to do more. I wanted to both feel like I'm making a bigger effort and helping others to learn how to better do their craft of marketing. So.
Okay, cool. And how did you first get into marketing? Like, way back into, when you were in school or college or what have not?
Right. So my undergraduate degree is actually in English with a minor in creative writing.
Nice.
Which in some respects naturally would sort of make some sense for elements of marketing. But I specifically, ironically, remember people asking me when I graduated, well, you have this degree in English, are you going to be a lawyer or a teacher? Because that's sort of the predictable path, I suppose. And ever the contrarian, I said neither. So I proceeded to find something other than being a lawyer or a teacher. And I kind of just started looking around for things. I was in the Santa Barbara area. I went to school at UC Santa Barbara, and I wanted to stay in that area, much like students here want to stay in Myrtle Beach if possible. And actually, I wound up finding a technical writing position at a medical device manufacturer in the area. And so that was like my first sort of real job out of the gate.
Right.
I was writing really dry, really boring, like assembly procedures, standard operating procedures. Like it was a very gray corporate kind of environment. But the skills I got there in terms of writing instructionally, declaratively, clearly, especially for people for whom English is a second language. Because a lot of the folks assembling the stuff, that was their situation.
Right.
And till this day, I can still look back and how I construct things, even in my assignments. Like I'll word it in a way that is derivative of that experience.
Right.
So prior to that job and kind of in conjunction with and a little bit before being in my undergraduate university, I had always been involved in student journalism. So yearbook, newspaper, I had been editor of both. I had been involved in yearbook as a copy editor, a section editor in college in the old days when we had yearbooks. And kind of long story longer, I don't remember how it was, either through getting to know other people in the company or whatnot, but somebody somehow caught wind that I had a background in writing, publication, journalism.
Right.
So the marketing department started to bring over flyers and brochures and things for me to just basically copy edit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it started. So I just kind of would see the brochures and give them tips and pointers and whatnot. And it kind of made me think, well, maybe this is a way to kind of merge these two worlds of the creative side of me, the sort of more practical side of me, in a way that has kind of a career potential / career arc to it. So I actually started taking some extension courses, or what might also be called like certificate courses.
Right.
Although I didn't earn a certificate, I just took individual marketing courses, PR courses, copywriting courses, things like that. That gave me a little bit of a foothold in marketing.
Right.
And then basically from there forward, it was always some version of marketing, marketing communications, marketing management, in all kind of industries, nonprofit, for-profit, startup, Fortune 500. In various kind of capacities in marketing and in various roles, but always essentially in that element of creating and communicating something.
Well, cool. Okay. And can you talk about how that led you to Dubai and some of your experiences there?
Right. So at the point where I was finding myself on this verge of wanting to do something different, take a leap of faith, I had been trying for a really long time to switch over from teaching adjunct primarily to finding something full-time. And so with the master's degree I have, so I have an MBA, which I earned, I think if I did the math correctly, which I'm bad at, 9 years after I finished my undergrad.
Right.
And so that opened the door for teaching. And that's still what is allowing me to teach today. And so to teach either as a lecturer at a four-year university or at a junior/community college, you don't need a doctorate. So I was applying everywhere I could find an option. I even applied to a community college in Barrow, Alaska, which if you don't know is the northernmost city in the entire United States. It's on the Arctic Circle.
Okay.
There's a comic book called 30 Days of Night. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It takes place in Barrow, Alaska, and it's about vampires because Barrow is so far north that for 1 month or a couple months out of the year, there's no sunlight
At all?
which would be very conducive to vampires.
Yeah.
And I just was trying to apply everywhere. I just couldn't crack the code. I couldn't get through. And I really wanted that stability. I really wanted to kind of anchor myself somewhere and really build from it. Just couldn't kind of crack the code. So kind of this random series of experiences, events, and things I had kind of gone through just sort of made me realize, well, what about working overseas? I had never thought of it before.
Yeah.
Just based on some prior experiences, it kind of popped into my head as an option. I thought, well, all right. I had no idea what it was. I had no idea how it went. So I just started kind of Googling around and finding things.
Yeah.
I found one website that's specific to overseas jobs, or at least includes them.
Yeah.
I actually applied a lot through LinkedIn. So I used LinkedIn, a couple of these other specific career sites, mainly for academia. And then I just started kind of sort of tossing CVs wherever I could, and very intentionally applying for positions for which I was underqualified.
Yeah.
At least technically, right?
Technically, yeah.
And my plan actually worked because I applied for one university in Dubai, and they were looking for a program manager position, which is kind of like what we would call a department chair.
Right.
I'm like, there's no way I'm qualified for this. But in my head, I'm thinking, I don't want to do this. Maybe you need me to teach. Send, right? And that's exactly what happened. So after having some kind of interesting experiences, adventures, offers elsewhere, including Kabul, Afghanistan, which I thought would have been an interesting adventure, but I'm not up for getting kidnapped by the Taliban kind of adventure.
Right.
So anyway, but I just wanted to see the process. So So the funniest thing, and this sort of became a little bit endemic to the whole situation. So it's mid-August of 2014, and we're sort of finalizing everything. And they said to me, okay, we need you at the start of the year.
Right.
So if I said I need you at the start of the year, what would you think? When would you think that would be?
January?
That's what I thought it would be. No, September, 2 weeks. They meant school year.
Oh, okay.
So in about a 2-week period, I had to completely pack up my life, shut everything down, take my diplomas and my degrees and go through all these crazy processes called attestation. I had to go to the State Department in Los Angeles, and to take 2 trips from Santa Barbara back, forth, get all these documents, all this paperwork, and it somehow all kind of came together. It was just a kind of a crazy crunch of things, and trying to kind of deal with a lot of things and trying to find a way to sort of elegantly extricate myself from a lot of the issues I had, and also try to find a way to kind of manage it with my kids who were pretty young at the time.
Right.
And so just off I went, and I'd never been to Dubai before. I had done some international travel. The only thing I really knew about Dubai was a Travel Channel show I saw about the Burj Al Arab, I think, where it's a 7-star hotel, not a 5. It's 2 better. So.
Wow. Okay, so let's go into these TED Talks. So I scroll on my LinkedIn, and every once in a while I see Matthew Gilbert does his TED Talk. How did you get into that space, and what do you what's your favorite type of topic to talk about?
Sure. Well, again, I go back to Dubai. So Dubai was really a pivot point for me for a lot of things, and a lot of things emerged from that or happened because of that. It was really a great crossroads for me of personal and professional growth. So ironically, when I was in Dubai, where was I? I forgot how I became aware of it. I was somewhere. I forgot how I became aware. One of the universities in the area where my campus was, where it's a whole area where there's universities.
Right.
It was actually a Dubai campus of Rochester Institute of Technology. And so they had previously hosted a couple of TEDx talks, and I somehow became aware of it. I don't remember how. And so I went over. There was actually Thanksgiving Day of 2019.
Yeah.
And they had kind of this meeting for everybody who was interested, and they kind of gave us kind of a approach of how to sort of think about what you might want to talk about. We kind of did this sort of exercise in the classroom. And then, I don't know, something came out that I didn't expect, or I sort of knew might come out, and I just kind of nurtured it from there.
Yeah.
And it was really just based on a lot of my personal issues and struggles, to a large degree why I wound up in Dubai.
Yeah.
It's kind of the backstory.
Right.
And then the irony of all ironies is that, so as we're progressing and moving forward and I'm prepping it, we were originally supposed to have the event. Actually, we were originally supposed to have it on my birthday, which is February 22nd, 2020.
Right.
Which I thought was awesome. I thought it was fortuitous.
Yeah.
It's a sign. And then once we got into it, they had to move the date for various reasons to March 14th, 2020.
Yeah.
You see where I'm going with
Right,
this?
yes,
Right,
yes.
okay. So when the whole COVID thing happened, Dubai, I think, was about a week ahead of the rest of the world in terms of kind of starting to shut things down.
Yeah.
Or at least actually they shut down any school-related things like
Right.
a week sooner. Because I think it was like literally like that week of that 14th.
Yes.
It was like a week before or that week early enough that they said nothing can happen on any university, high school, elementary campus.
Right.
So it just completely shut everything down.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of stopped, right? Like everything else stopped. So we were just ahead of the curve a little
Right. Yeah.
bit. The irony or the interesting part of this adventure with my TED Talks is in December of 2020, I got a iMessage from one of the organizers who, at this point, actually was finishing her final year at RIT, at the actual RIT campus in upstate New York. And she said, hey, would you be willing to do the TED Talk on Zoom remotely? I'm like, why would I not?
Yeah.
Like, sure.
Yeah.
I want to be able to say I did a TED Talk. And that's how it went. Basically,
Yeah.
it went virtually. And, we still got the amount of coaching. We got a lot of help. The way that it works is, you are assigned like a speaker coach.
Right.
So you also collaborate often with your other speakers, but you work one-on-one with someone who helps you to kind of craft it and kind of fit within the guidelines, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I did the first one, then I kind of got the bug, right? It kind of became like a hobby overnight, right? So I kind of kept thinking, well, maybe I could give another one. I kind of had some ideas, and I would just always kind of look for where there might be opportunities. And I sent out a few pitches, basically, that didn't take, and then I was able to get another one up in Raleigh at TEDx Raleigh. So the first one was TEDx RIT Dubai.
Right.
And this one was TEDx Raleigh. And it was through that one I was able to actually talk about my work with the E11 Entrepreneurship Institute. So I did that, and then I did actually wind up doing three in a year, not a calendar year.
Yeah.
The third one that I did was actually hosted by my undergraduate university.
Huh.
And I thought, well, this is, again, it's a sign.
Yeah.
So I applied. I actually pitched this idea of an organization related to the work I had been doing with Each One Teach One.
Right.
And I got accepted. I flew out there. Honestly, it felt like the best TED Talk I ever gave.
Yeah.
It felt like real, like I had that cool microphone on the side of your head, and it was a big stage and lights, and I'm like, this is a TED Talk. And unless things change, or unless I'm able to advocate on my behalf, I learned at some point later, they're often very slow to upload the videos because there's a lot.
Right.
They go through them. And then I heard at some point from the organizers, like, they don't want to upload your talk.
Oh.
And I thought, why? And they gave me some explanation. I still don't really understand it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's involved with appealing that or what happens. The good thing, the silver lining is I have all the photos from it. So I have photo evidence, looking like a speaker on stage. And I do have the video of it, which they gave me. So it's a little frustrating. But my point, though, is I want to learn what was it about it that they didn't want, because I actually coached the speakers for the first TEDx event we did here on campus.
Right.
And it's a little bit slow going, but I'm planning to organize our second TEDx event, which will most likely be next spring, 2024. Yeah.
Very exciting. Okay, so final question. What advice do you have for students or potential students who would like to go into the marketing or business fields?
I think my main advice, and I think this will be echoed by other faculty, is do as much as you can to get real-world experience, both for the ability to have done it, to say you've done it, to have evidence that you can do certain things, but also to figure out what you don't like to do.
Yeah.
Because I think often that's a better teacher than when something goes well, right? If something doesn't go well, what didn't I like about it? Was it the job? Was it the place? Was it some other circumstance? Because, I'll ask my students at the start of every semester, like, kind of where have you been? Where are you now? And where are you going? Right? Just to kind of get a little barometer.
Right.
And I always say that where are you going, you might not know, and that's fine.
Right.
Because even if you know, it'll probably change. And But I'll say, like, sometimes the best way to know what you do want to do or where you want to go is to realize what you don't.
Yeah.
And that's often a better teacher, and better to get it now when you don't have to pay a rent or you don't have financial responsibilities to lots of other people, or there's other stresses and things of the adulting nature going on. And I know for me, and I know all my other colleagues in the Wall College, we're very student oriented.
Right.
Like I've had a couple situations where I've had either an advisee and or just a student who I know who came to me and they're like, look, this internship isn't working out for XYZ reasons.
Right.
And then often they'll tell me, like, I've been trying to make it work for like 2-3 months. I'm like, why have you been waiting this long?
Right.
Because we always make an effort to extricate someone from a situation that is really unhealthy for them and toxic and trying. It's one thing if it's just hard and challenging, but if there's a reward, so to speak, for it, or if there's a purpose in that.
Right.
But I mean, I tell my students there's no reason you have to suffer, to learn, right, basically. And so the sooner you can realize something like that, the better. Because if you do still want to do an internship, we can find you something else. The sooner the better. And B, why put yourself in that situation?
Exactly.
I mean, all students, everyone is stressed enough, but I know students especially have so much going on that I think people often overlook.
Mm-hmm.
I think, well, they're in college, life is easy. It's not. There's a lot of challenges going on. So.
Right. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. But
You're
don't
welcome.
go anywhere. We have the Hat of the Week coming up right now. Now it's time for Hat of the Week.
Okay, so I'm wearing a traditional Emirati headdress. The white part is called a gutra, and the black part is called an agal. And basically, this is, if you think about where it's being worn, it's in the desert, so it protects you from the sun, from the heat. The history of this device is that it actually is used or was used. It's representative of like a rope to pull your camel with, to kind of guide your camel.
Uh-huh.
And so you'll see various versions of this throughout the Middle East. Different countries wear it differently. There are different ways to wear it in each country. There's a traditional Emirati way to wear it that I really like, and it's without this. It's more informal, and I really like how it looks, but I could never figure out how to do it. The folks in Qatar wear it. They do this cool, I call it like a cobra thing. It has this interesting look to it.
Oh.
Saudis, typically, you'll see the red and white kind of checker one.
Uh-huh.
But different countries, different tribes sometimes have different versions of it, and they wear it in a different way. But it's essentially similar across the cultures and across the area. So it's fashionable and functional.
All right, that wraps up this week's episode of Midday with Trey. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again, same time, same place, next week. And make sure you follow all of our social media pages down below, as always. Thank you so much for Professor Gilbert for being on the show. Really enjoyed it. Thank you for telling us about what's the full name again?
It's called the Gutra.
The Gutra. Okay, thank you for telling us about the Gutra. I really enjoyed hearing about that and your Dubai stories, and thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Make sure you come back next time, same place next week. See you later. Bye.